The advantage of a calm mind. Calm your mind, master your emotions, change your life. Written and published by Rising Audiobook. Introduction. There is a silent battle taking place every single day, a battle most people never see, yet almost everyone fights. It isn't against difficult people, unexpected setbacks, or an uncertain future. It happens inside the mind. Long before life defeats us, our thoughts often do. A restless mind can turn small problems into overwhelming mountains, replace confidence with doubt, and steal today's peace by worrying about tomorrow. We live in a world that constantly demands our attention. Endless notifications, comparisons, deadlines, and expectations keep our minds racing, leaving little room for clarity. In that chaos, we begin reacting instead of thinking, surviving instead of living. We mistake being busy for being productive and emotional intensity for strength, never realizing that the greatest power belongs to those who remain calm when everything around them is not. The truth is simple but life-changing. A calm mind is not a gift reserved for a fortunate few. It is a skill, one that can be learned, strengthened, and carried into every moment of life. When you master your emotions, you make wiser decisions, build stronger relationships, recover from setbacks faster, and discover a quiet confidence that no circumstance can take away. This audiobook is your guide to that transformation. One chapter at a time, you'll replace mental chaos with clarity, emotional reactions with wisdom, and constant stress with lasting inner peace. Your greatest advantage is waiting, and your journey begins now. Chapter 1. When your mind becomes your greatest enemy. Have you ever noticed that the hardest battles in life often happen in complete silence? From the outside, everything may appear normal. You go to work, smile at friends, complete your responsibilities, and carry on with your daily routine. But inside, your mind refuses to rest. It replays yesterday's mistakes, predicts tomorrow's failures, and questions every decision you make. Slowly, without realizing it, your greatest obstacle is no longer the world around you. It is the conversation taking place inside your own head. The human mind is a remarkable tool. It can solve complex problems, create incredible ideas, and imagine a better future. But when left unchecked, that same mind can become a relentless critic. It convinces you that you are not good enough, that one mistake defines your future, or that the worst possible outcome is just around the corner. What begins as a single worried thought can quickly grow into a storm of fear, doubt, and anxiety. This is the trap of overthinking. Overthinking rarely solves problems. Instead, it creates new ones. A simple conversation becomes hours of replaying every word you said. A small setback turns into evidence that you will never succeed. A delay in receiving a message suddenly feels like rejection. Your imagination fills the gaps with stories that often have little connection to reality. The mind has an ancient purpose: survival. For thousands of years, our ancestors stayed alive because their brains constantly searched for danger. That ability protected them from predators and harsh environments. Today, however, the threats are usually not wild animals or natural disasters. Instead, they are deadlines, financial worries, social pressures, criticism, and uncertainty. Yet your brain often reacts to these modern challenges as if your survival is still at stake. That is why your heart races before an important meeting. It is why you lose sleep before making a difficult decision. It is why one negative comment can overshadow 10 genuine compliments. Your brain is trying to protect you, but without awareness, its protective instincts can become overwhelming. One of the greatest illusions created by the mind is the belief that thinking more always leads to better answers. In reality, there comes a point when additional thinking no longer creates clarity, it creates confusion. The same thoughts repeat in different forms until you feel mentally exhausted. Instead of moving forward, you become trapped in endless analysis. Think about how many moments of happiness have been stolen by worrying about things that never happened. How many opportunities have been missed because fear spoke louder than courage? How many relationships have suffered because assumptions replaced honest conversations? Often, reality is far kinder than the stories our minds invent. The good news is that you are not your thoughts. This may sound simple, but it is one of the most powerful truths you can ever understand. A thought is not a fact. Just because your mind says, "I will fail," does not make failure inevitable. Just because you feel anxious does not mean danger is present. Thoughts are mental events, not absolute truths. They deserve observation before they deserve belief. Awareness is where freedom begins. The moment you notice your thoughts instead of automatically following them, you create space between yourself and your emotions. In that space, you gain the ability to choose your response. Instead of reacting to every fearful idea, you begin asking better questions. Is this thought true? Is there evidence for it? Is this helping me or harming me? These simple questions interrupt the cycle of automatic thinking. Developing this awareness takes practice. There will still be moments when anxiety appears or doubt creeps in. The goal is not to eliminate every negative thought. That is impossible. The goal is to stop allowing those thoughts to control your life. Calmness does not come from having a perfectly quiet mind. It comes from learning not to be ruled by every passing thought. Imagine standing beside a flowing river. Each leaf floating downstream represents a thought. Some are joyful, some are fearful, and some are completely meaningless. You do not need to jump into the water and chase every leaf. You simply watch them pass. Your thoughts can be approached in the same way. They come, they go, and you are free to decide which ones deserve your attention. The journey to a calmer mind does not begin by changing the world around you. It begins by changing your relationship with your own thoughts. Once you understand that your mind is a powerful servant but a poor master, everything starts to shift. Fear loses its grip, clarity replaces confusion, and peace becomes something you create from within rather than something you wait to find. Every lasting transformation begins with awareness. And today, by recognizing that your mind can either imprison you or empower you, you have already taken the first step toward making it your greatest ally instead of your greatest enemy. Chapter 2. The hidden cost of living in constant stress. Stress has become so common that many people no longer recognize it. It hides behind busy schedules, endless responsibilities, and the belief that constantly feeling overwhelmed is simply part of modern life. We wear exhaustion like a badge of honor, convincing ourselves that if we're always busy, we must be making progress. But beneath that appearance of productivity lies a silent force that slowly drains our energy, clouds our judgment, and steals our peace. The truth is that stress is not always loud. Sometimes it whispers. It shows up as a restless night, a short temper, an inability to focus, or a feeling that you're constantly rushing but never truly arriving. It convinces you that once you finish the next project, solve the next problem, or reach the next milestone, everything will finally calm down. Yet another challenge always appears, and the cycle continues. The human body was designed to handle stress, but only in short bursts. Imagine our ancestors encountering a dangerous animal. Their hearts raced, muscles tightened, and minds became sharply focused. This stress response helped them survive immediate danger. Once the threat disappeared, their bodies returned to a state of balance. Today's threats are very different. Instead of facing a lion for a few minutes, we face deadlines, financial concerns, family pressures, relationship conflicts, and endless streams of information every day. Our bodies often react as though these situations are life-threatening, even when they are not. The problem is that the stress response rarely switches off completely. It stays active day after day, quietly wearing us down. When stress becomes constant, it begins to influence nearly every part of life. One of the first things it steals is clarity. A stressed mind struggles to think objectively. Small problems seem much larger than they are, while simple decisions suddenly feel overwhelming. You may find yourself reading the same paragraph several times without absorbing it or forgetting conversations you had only hours earlier. Your attention becomes scattered because your brain is focused on surviving rather than thinking creatively. Stress also changes the way we communicate. When the mind feels under pressure, patience becomes difficult. We interrupt more often, listen less carefully, and react emotionally instead of thoughtfully. A harmless comment from a loved one may feel like criticism. A minor disagreement can quickly become a major argument. In many cases, the issue isn't the relationship itself, it is the stress each person is carrying into it. Think about how many unnecessary conflicts begin after a long, exhausting day. Words are spoken that aren't truly meant. Apologies become necessary. Trust is tested, not because people stopped caring about one another, but because stress temporarily silenced their best qualities. Perhaps the greatest danger of chronic stress is that it slowly becomes normal. When you live under pressure for months or even years, you forget what genuine calm feels like. Constant tension becomes your baseline. You wake up already feeling tired. Your shoulders remain tight without you noticing. Even moments of rest feel uncomfortable because your mind has become addicted to staying alert. Many people mistake this constant state of readiness for ambition or responsibility, when in reality it is emotional exhaustion. Stress also affects the decisions that shape our future. When emotions run high, judgment often runs low. We make impulsive purchases to feel better, avoid important conversations because they seem too difficult, or give up on meaningful goals because temporary discomfort feels unbearable. Decisions made from panic rarely produce peaceful outcomes. Calm thinking, on the other hand, allows us to separate temporary emotions from lasting priorities. Consider someone searching for a new job. Under intense stress, every rejection feels deeply personal. They begin doubting their abilities, rushing applications without care, or accepting the first unsuitable opportunity simply to escape uncertainty. Another person faces the same challenges, but manages stress differently. They acknowledge disappointment without allowing it to define them. They continue improving their skills, learning from feedback, and making thoughtful decisions. The circumstances may be similar, but their emotional state leads them down very different paths. Stress also narrows our vision. It convinces us that today's problems are permanent. We lose sight of possibilities because our minds become trapped in immediate discomfort. Yet history is filled with people who discovered their greatest opportunities only after learning to remain steady during difficult seasons. Calmness allows us to see solutions that panic keeps hidden. This does not mean we should eliminate every source of stress. Some stress is unavoidable. Challenges help us grow, responsibilities give life meaning, and difficult experiences often become our greatest teachers. The goal is not to create a life without pressure. The goal is to build a mind that can face pressure without being consumed by it. The first step is awareness. Pay attention to the signals your mind and body send you. Are you constantly rushing? Do you struggle to relax even when nothing demands your attention? Have you stopped enjoying simple moments because your thoughts are always somewhere else? These are not signs of weakness. They are invitations to slow down before stress begins making decisions on your behalf. Recovery begins with small choices. Taking a few deep breaths before responding to an email, walking outside without your phone, sleeping enough to allow your mind to recover, saying no to unnecessary commitments, giving yourself permission to pause instead of constantly pushing forward. These actions may seem insignificant, but over time they rebuild emotional strength. Remember, productivity is not measured by how exhausted you become. Success is not determined by how much pressure you can endure. A meaningful life is built by protecting the quality of your mind, because every decision, every relationship, and every dream depends upon it. Stress may be an unavoidable part of life, but living under its control is not. The moment you recognize its hidden cost, you also discover the power to change your relationship with it. By choosing awareness over autopilot and calm over constant urgency, you create space for clearer thinking, healthier relationships, wiser decisions, and a life that is no longer driven by pressure but guided by purpose. Chapter 3. Why calm people always have the advantage. When people think about success, they often imagine intelligence, talent, education, or hard work. These qualities certainly matter, but they are not what separates exceptional people from everyone else. History repeatedly shows that two individuals can possess the same knowledge, the same opportunities, and even the same level of skill, yet produce dramatically different results. The difference is often invisible. It lies in how they respond when life becomes difficult. Calm people have an advantage because they refuse to let emotions make their most important decisions. Think about the moments that shape a person's life. Accepting a job offer, starting a business, responding to criticism, handling conflict in a relationship, recovering after failure. These moments rarely require perfect intelligence. They require clear thinking under pressure. And clarity is impossible when panic is in control. Imagine two business leaders facing a sudden financial crisis. Sales have dropped, employees are worried, and uncertainty fills the office. The first leader immediately reacts with fear. They blame others, make rushed decisions, cancel important projects, and spread anxiety throughout the team. Every action is driven by emotion rather than reason. The second leader faces exactly the same challenge. They acknowledge the seriousness of the situation but refuse to panic. Instead of making assumptions, they gather accurate information. Instead of spreading fear, they communicate honestly with their team. Instead of reacting impulsively, they create a thoughtful recovery plan. Months later, their company is stronger, not because the crisis was smaller, but because their response was wiser. The difference is not intelligence, it is emotional control. This principle extends far beyond business. In everyday life, calm people consistently make better decisions because they give themselves something most people never do: time to think. When emotions run high, our perspective becomes narrow. We see only the immediate discomfort. Anger demands revenge. Fear demands escape. Anxiety demands certainty, but calmness creates space between the emotion and the action. In that small space lies one of the greatest powers a person can possess, the ability to choose rather than react. This is why calm people rarely regret their decisions. They pause before speaking. They consider different perspectives. They understand that temporary emotions should never determine permanent choices. They know that today's frustration may disappear tomorrow, but the consequences of impulsive actions can last for years. Calmness also builds confidence, although not in the way many people imagine. True confidence is not loud. It does not depend on impressing others or proving superiority. Genuine confidence comes from trusting your ability to remain steady, even when circumstances are uncertain. When you know you can handle disappointment, criticism, failure, or unexpected change without falling apart, you stop fearing those experiences. You become willing to take risks because your emotional stability no longer depends on perfect outcomes. This is why emotionally calm people often appear fearless. The truth is, they still experience fear. They simply refuse to let fear become their leader. Another powerful advantage of calmness is trust. Think about the people you naturally turn to during difficult times. They are probably not the loudest voices in the room. They are not the ones who complain the most or react dramatically to every problem. Instead, they remain composed. They listen before speaking. They make thoughtful decisions. Their presence alone makes others feel safer. People trust emotional stability because it creates predictability. We know where we stand with calm individuals. They do not allow every mood to dictate their behavior. Whether they receive praise or criticism, success or failure, they remain grounded. That consistency builds stronger friendships, healthier families, and more effective leadership. In contrast, emotional instability creates uncertainty. When someone reacts differently every day depending on their mood, others begin walking on eggshells. Conversations become cautious. Relationships lose security. Over time, people naturally distance themselves, not because they dislike the person, but because they never know what emotional environment they will encounter. Calmness is also one of the greatest sources of resilience. Life guarantees setbacks. Every meaningful journey includes disappointment, rejection, mistakes, and unexpected obstacles. The question is not whether challenges will come. The question is how you will respond when they do. Emotionally reactive people often view failure as proof that they are incapable. One setback becomes a reason to quit. One rejection becomes evidence that success is impossible. Their emotions transform temporary difficulties into permanent conclusions. Calm people think differently. They separate the event from their identity. A failed attempt does not make them failures. A mistake becomes information rather than condemnation. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they ask, "What can this teach me?" That shift in perspective changes everything. Calmness does not eliminate pain. It changes how pain is processed. Rather than becoming trapped by disappointment, calm people move through it. They recover faster because they spend less time fighting reality and more time learning from it. Perhaps the greatest advantage of a calm mind is that it allows you to see what emotional chaos hides. When panic takes over, every problem appears permanent. Every obstacle feels impossible. Every uncertainty seems threatening, but a calm mind creates perspective. It reminds you that emotions are temporary, that challenges eventually pass, and that thoughtful action almost always produces better results than impulsive reaction. This does not mean calm people are perfect. They still experience frustration, sadness, fear, and disappointment. The difference is that they do not become prisoners of those emotions. They recognize them, learn from them, and then move forward with wisdom rather than impulse. The world often celebrates speed, constant activity, and immediate reactions. Yet the people who quietly shape history, inspire others, and build lasting success share a different quality. They have learned that strength is not measured by how loudly you respond to life's storms, but by how steadily you stand within them. In the end, your greatest advantage will never be the absence of challenges. It will be your ability to remain calm enough to face them with clarity, courage, and confidence. A calm mind does not simply help you survive difficult moments, it helps you transform them into opportunities for growth, leadership, and lasting success. Chapter 4. Breaking Free from the Overthinking Trap. It often begins with a single thought. Perhaps you replay a conversation and wonder if you said the wrong thing. Maybe you make a small mistake at work and convince yourself it will ruin your reputation. Or perhaps you face an uncertain future and your mind immediately starts creating endless what-if scenarios. Before long, one thought becomes 10, 10 become 100, and your mind is trapped in a cycle that feels impossible to escape. This is the nature of overthinking. It promises answers, but delivers exhaustion. It disguises itself as careful planning, yet more often than not, it steals your ability to act. Instead of solving problems, it multiplies them. One of the greatest misconceptions about overthinking is that it is a sign of intelligence. Many people believe that thinking longer means thinking better. In reality, there is an important difference between thoughtful reflection and endless mental repetition. Reflection seeks understanding. Overthinking seeks certainty. Reflection asks, what can I learn from this experience? Overthinking asks, what if everything goes wrong? Reflection ends with clarity and action. Overthinking ends with confusion and paralysis. Your brain has a natural tendency to search for potential dangers. Thousands of years ago, this instinct helped our ancestors survive. Those who noticed threats quickly were more likely to stay alive. Although the world has changed dramatically, your brain still carries that ancient survival system. Today, the dangers are rarely physical. Instead of worrying about predators, we worry about job interviews, relationships, finances, health, social approval, and the opinions of strangers. Yet the brain often reacts as though every uncertainty is a life-threatening emergency. That is why uncertainty feels so uncomfortable. Your mind desperately wants complete certainty before taking action, but life never offers complete certainty. There will always be unknowns. Waiting until every question has an answer usually means waiting forever. Consider someone lying awake at 2 o'clock in the morning after an awkward conversation earlier that day. Their mind replays every sentence. Why did I say that? They probably think I'm foolish. What if I ruined the relationship? The conversation grows larger with every replay. Meanwhile, the other person is probably asleep, having forgotten most of the exchange hours ago. This is how overthinking creates imaginary problems. It fills empty spaces with fear instead of facts. One reason overthinking is so difficult to recognize is that it feels productive. Your mind tells you that if you keep analyzing the situation, eventually you'll discover the perfect solution. But after the first few minutes, most additional thinking simply repeats the same ideas in different forms. Imagine trying to untangle a knot by pulling harder and harder. The more force you use, the tighter the knot becomes. Overthinking works in much the same way. The harder you try to force certainty, the more confused you become. Breaking free begins with recognizing a simple truth. Not every thought deserves your attention. Many people assume they must believe every thought that enters their mind. But thoughts are not commands. They are not facts. They are mental events that come and go, often without your permission. You cannot stop every thought from appearing, but you can choose whether to give it your energy. Think of your thoughts as clouds moving across the sky. Some are dark, some are light, and some disappear almost as quickly as they arrive. The sky does not fight the clouds, it simply allows them to pass. In the same way, your awareness can observe thoughts without becoming trapped inside them. This is where mindfulness becomes so powerful. Mindfulness is not about forcing your mind to become empty. That would be impossible. Instead, it is the practice of noticing your thoughts without immediately reacting to them. Suppose a worried thought appears. I'm going to fail. Instead of accepting it as truth, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, is this a fact or simply a fear? What evidence supports this thought? What evidence challenges it? Would I speak to a close friend this way? These questions create distance between you and the thought. That distance is where emotional freedom begins. Another powerful way to escape overthinking is through action. Overthinking feeds on inactivity. The longer we delay making decisions, the more opportunities our minds have to invent new fears. Imagine standing at the edge of a swimming pool. You spend 20 minutes wondering whether the water will feel cold. You analyze every possibility. You hesitate. Yet the moment you step into the water, uncertainty disappears. Reality replaces imagination. Many areas of life work exactly the same way. Starting a business, applying for a new job, having a difficult conversation, beginning a healthier lifestyle. The first step often teaches you more than hours of worrying ever could. This doesn't mean acting recklessly. It means recognizing that progress creates clarity. Small actions answer questions that endless thinking never will. Another habit that strengthens overthinking is the pursuit of perfection. Perfection tells you that every decision must be flawless. Every word must be perfect. Every opportunity must be the right one. Every outcome must be guaranteed. But perfection is an impossible standard. The people who accomplish meaningful things are not those who wait for perfect conditions. They are the ones willing to make imperfect progress. Mistakes are not proof of failure. They are part of learning. Every successful person has made decisions that didn't work. Their success came not from avoiding mistakes, but from continuing despite them. It is also important to protect your mind from unnecessary mental noise. Today's world constantly competes for your attention. Endless notifications, breaking news, social media comparisons, and unlimited opinions leave very little room for quiet thinking. When your mind never rests, it naturally becomes more anxious. Creating moments of silence each day is not a luxury, it is maintenance for your mind. Take a walk without your phone. Sit quietly with a cup of tea. Read a few pages of an inspiring book. Write your thoughts in a journal. Spend a few minutes simply breathing without distraction. These small practices remind your mind that not every moment requires stimulation. Perhaps the greatest breakthrough comes when you accept that uncertainty is not your enemy. Life has always been uncertain. It always will be. No amount of worrying can guarantee tomorrow. No amount of analyzing can remove every risk. But calm people understand something that overthinkers often forget. Confidence does not come from knowing exactly what will happen. Confidence comes from trusting yourself to handle whatever happens. The goal is not to stop thinking. The goal is to think wisely. A calm mind knows when to analyze and when to let go. It knows when action is more valuable than another hour of worry. It understands that peace is not found by controlling every outcome, but by controlling your response to uncertainty. Every time you choose action over endless analysis, awareness over automatic fear, and trust over imagined catastrophe, you weaken the grip of overthinking. Little by little, the noisy voice inside your mind becomes quieter. In its place, something far more powerful begins to grow: clarity. And with clarity comes the freedom to live your life instead of merely thinking about it. Chapter 5. Mastering your emotions instead of being controlled by them. Every human being experiences emotions. Joy, sadness, anger, fear, disappointment, excitement, guilt, hope, and love are all part of the human experience. They color our lives, deepen our relationships, and give meaning to our memories. The problem is not that we have emotions. The problem begins when our emotions start making decisions on our behalf. Think back to a moment when you said something in anger that you later wished you could take back. Or perhaps you avoided an important opportunity because fear convinced you that failure was inevitable. Maybe you made an impulsive purchase to escape stress, only to regret it later. In each of these moments, emotions were not simply being felt. They were driving your actions. There is a profound difference between experiencing an emotion and becoming controlled by it. Emotion is natural. Reaction is a choice. Most people never learn this distinction. Instead, they spend their lives believing that because they feel something, they must act on it. They mistake emotion for instruction. But emotions are messengers, not masters. They are designed to provide information, not to dictate every decision. Imagine driving a car. The dashboard contains warning lights that alert you when something needs attention. If the fuel light appears, you don't panic or abandon the vehicle. You simply recognize the signal and respond appropriately. Emotions work in much the same way. Anger may tell you that a boundary has been crossed. Fear may remind you to prepare carefully. Sadness may signal loss or disappointment. But if you allow those warning lights to steer the car, you will quickly lose control. The first step toward emotional mastery is emotional awareness. Many people experience emotions without ever identifying them accurately. They simply say, "I feel bad," or "I'm stressed." Yet beneath those broad descriptions often lie more specific feelings: frustration, embarrassment, disappointment, loneliness, insecurity, or uncertainty. The more precisely you can identify your emotions, the more effectively you can respond to them. For example, imagine receiving constructive criticism from your manager. At first, you tell yourself, "I'm angry." But if you pause and look deeper, you may realize that what you're actually feeling is embarrassment. Perhaps you fear that others will think less of you. Once you understand the true emotion, your response changes. Instead of reacting defensively, you can address the real issue with honesty and maturity. Self-awareness transforms emotional confusion into emotional clarity. One of the greatest myths about emotionally strong people is that they don't feel difficult emotions. In reality, emotionally mature people feel everything that everyone else feels. They experience fear before important presentations. They feel sadness after loss. They become frustrated when life doesn't go according to plan. The difference is not the absence of emotion. The difference is the presence of self-control. Self-control is often misunderstood as suppressing emotions, but suppression is not mastery. Ignoring your emotions does not make them disappear. Hidden emotions often grow stronger, eventually surfacing through stress, resentment, anxiety, or emotional exhaustion. Imagine trying to hold a beach ball underwater. For a while, you can keep it beneath the surface, but the harder you push, the more forcefully it eventually bursts back up. Suppressed emotions behave in much the same way. True emotional mastery means acknowledging your feelings without allowing them to overwhelm your judgment. You can say, "I'm angry, but I don't need to shout. I'm afraid, but I can still move forward. I'm disappointed, but I won't let this define me." These simple statements shift your identity. Instead of becoming your emotions, you become the observer of them. Another essential skill is learning to pause. Many of life's biggest regrets happen in moments when people react before they think. An angry email, a harsh comment, a reckless decision, an unnecessary argument. Most of these situations could have been avoided by something remarkably simple: a pause, a few deep breaths, a short walk, 10 quiet seconds, one night's sleep before responding. These small pauses create space between emotion and action, and in that space, wisdom has a chance to speak. There is an old saying that you cannot stop birds from flying over your head, but you can stop them from building a nest in your hair. Thoughts and emotions will always come and go. Emotional maturity is not about preventing them from appearing. It is about deciding which ones deserve your attention. Another important lesson is understanding emotional triggers. Every person has situations that provoke strong emotional reactions. Some become defensive when criticized. Others panic when facing uncertainty. Some struggle with rejection, while others become angry when they feel ignored. These triggers are often rooted in past experiences rather than present reality. Imagine someone who grew up constantly being told they were not good enough. Years later, even gentle feedback may feel like a personal attack because old emotional wounds are still influencing present reactions. Recognizing your triggers allows you to respond with awareness rather than habit. Instead of asking, "Why am I so emotional?" ask, "What is this emotion trying to teach me?" That single question transforms emotional pain into personal growth. Emotional mastery also strengthens relationships. Healthy relationships are not built because two people never disagree. They are built because both people know how to manage disagreement with respect. When emotions take control, conversations become battles. People interrupt. They assume. They accuse. They stop listening. Their goal shifts from understanding to winning. But emotionally mature people approach conflict differently. They listen before speaking. They seek clarity before judgment. They remain curious instead of defensive. They understand that protecting the relationship is often more important than winning the argument. This approach creates trust. People naturally feel safer around those who remain calm during emotional moments. It is also important to remember that your emotional state is contagious. Walk into a room where one person is panicking and everyone begins feeling anxious. Walk into a room where someone remains calm and reassuring, and tension begins to fade. Whether you realize it or not, your emotional habits influence your family, friends, colleagues, and even strangers. By learning to regulate your own emotions, you quietly give others permission to do the same. None of this means becoming emotionally cold or detached, quite the opposite. The goal is to feel deeply without becoming overwhelmed, to care without constantly worrying, to love without trying to control, to grieve without losing hope, to celebrate without becoming arrogant. Balance, not emotional numbness, is the mark of true strength. Like any worthwhile skill, emotional mastery develops through consistent practice. Some days you will remain calm with ease, other days you will react before thinking. That does not mean you have failed, it simply means you are human. Growth is measured not by perfection, but by progress. Each time you pause before reacting, identify an emotion accurately, choose understanding over impulse, or respond with patience instead of anger, you strengthen the part of yourself that leads with wisdom. Over time, these small moments create remarkable change. You begin making clearer decisions because fear no longer controls your judgment. Your relationships become healthier because you communicate with greater empathy and respect. Challenges become easier to face because your confidence is rooted in self-control rather than circumstances. Most importantly, you discover a profound kind of freedom. You no longer depend on everything around you going perfectly before you can experience peace. You realize that while you cannot always control what happens to you, you can always influence how you respond. And that is one of life's greatest powers. A person who has mastered their emotions cannot be easily manipulated by criticism, defeated by setbacks, or consumed by fear. Their strength comes from within. Their calmness is intentional. Their decisions are guided by wisdom rather than impulse. When you stop allowing emotions to control your life, you do not become less human. You become the very best version of what it means to be human. Chapter 6. Letting go of what you cannot control. One of the greatest sources of emotional suffering is not what happens to us, it is our constant struggle against things we were never meant to control. We want people to understand us. We want life to go according to plan. We want every effort to produce the results we expect. We want certainty about the future and reassurance that nothing will go wrong. When reality refuses to cooperate, frustration, anxiety, and disappointment quickly take their place. The truth is both simple and difficult to accept. Much of life is beyond our control. The weather changes without asking our permission. Other people make choices we cannot predict. Opportunities appear and disappear. Plans fall apart. Loved ones leave. Unexpected challenges arrive without warning. No matter how carefully we prepare, life will always contain uncertainty. Yet many people spend years fighting this reality. Imagine trying to hold back the tide with your bare hands. No matter how determined you are, the ocean will continue to rise and fall according to its own rhythm. The harder you resist, the more exhausted you become. Eventually, you realize that peace is not found by controlling the ocean, but by learning how to navigate its waves. Life works much the same way. One of the most liberating habits you can develop is learning to separate what you can control from what you cannot. You can control your attitude, you can control your effort, you can control your words, you can control your habits, you can control how you respond to difficult situations, but you cannot control other people's opinions, unexpected events, the past, or every outcome you desire. This distinction may seem obvious, yet many of us ignore it every day. We spend hours worrying about what someone else thinks of us while neglecting our own character. We replay past mistakes, hoping somehow to change them. We become anxious about future events that may never happen. Every minute spent trying to control the uncontrollable is a minute stolen from improving the things that truly matter. Consider a traveler rushing to the airport for an important flight. Halfway there, a severe storm causes every departure to be delayed. Anger immediately takes over. They complain about the weather, blame the airline, and spend hours feeling frustrated. Yet none of those reactions change the situation. Another traveler experiences the very same delay. They feel disappointed, of course, but after recognizing that the weather is beyond their control, they redirect their energy. They inform the people waiting for them, read a book, answer emails, or simply enjoy a quiet moment instead of feeding their frustration. Both people face the same circumstance. Only one protects their peace. Acceptance is often misunderstood. Many people confuse acceptance with giving up or lowering their standards. They believe that accepting reality means becoming passive or indifferent. Nothing could be further from the truth. Acceptance is not saying, "I like this situation." Acceptance is saying, "This is the reality I am facing, and I will respond wisely instead of denying it." Only when we accept reality can we begin changing what is actually within our reach. Imagine a sailor crossing the sea. They cannot control the direction of the wind. Fighting against it would be pointless, but they can adjust their sails. They can change their course. They can use the wind, however strong or unpredictable, to continue moving forward. Life constantly asks us to do the same. There is another burden many people carry without realizing it, the desire to control other people. We want friends to behave exactly as we expect. We want family members to make choices we believe are best. We want colleagues to think like us and strangers to treat us fairly at all times. When they don't, disappointment follows. But every person has their own experiences, beliefs, fears, and dreams. Trying to control another person's behavior is like trying to write someone else's story. It rarely succeeds, and even when it appears to, resentment usually grows beneath the surface. Healthy relationships are built not on control, but on respect. You can influence people through kindness, honesty, and example. You cannot force them to change. Understanding this frees you from countless unnecessary arguments. Another difficult lesson is letting go of the past. Many people continue punishing themselves for mistakes made years ago. They replay embarrassing moments, missed opportunities, or poor decisions as though endless regret will somehow rewrite history. But the past is a closed chapter. It can teach you, it can shape you. It cannot be changed. Imagine carrying a heavy suitcase everywhere you go. Every step becomes harder because of the unnecessary weight. Eventually, someone asks, "Why don't you put it down?" You answer, "Because it's mine." The suitcase represents old guilt, resentment, and regret. Many of us carry emotional baggage simply because we have grown accustomed to its weight. Forgiveness, whether directed toward yourself or someone else, is not about pretending the past never happened. It is about refusing to let yesterday continue controlling today. This same principle applies to the future. We often believe that if we worry enough, we can prevent bad things from happening. But worry has never changed tomorrow. It only steals today's energy. Preparation is useful. Worry is exhausting. Preparation says, "I will do everything I reasonably can." Worry says, "I must predict every possible problem." One creates confidence, the other creates fear. Learning to let go also requires trust. Not necessarily the belief that everything will always work out perfectly, but confidence that whatever happens, you will find a way to respond. This is where true resilience is born. It is not built by controlling every circumstance. It is built by strengthening the person who faces those circumstances. Each challenge becomes less frightening when you realize your greatest strength lies not in predicting the future, but in adapting to it. As you practice letting go, you may notice something surprising. Your mind becomes quieter. Your body feels lighter. Decisions become clearer. Relationships improve because expectations become healthier. You stop wasting emotional energy fighting reality and begin investing it where it can actually make a difference. This does not happen overnight. There will still be moments when you catch yourself worrying about things beyond your control. There will still be days when disappointment, frustration, or fear try to convince you to resist reality. When that happens, gently ask yourself one simple question: is this within my control? If the answer is yes, take action. If the answer is no, take a deep breath and let it go. That single habit has the power to transform the way you experience life. In the end, peace is not found in a world where everything unfolds exactly as you planned. Peace is found in becoming the kind of person who can remain steady when life unfolds differently. The more you release your grip on what you cannot control, the more firmly you hold on to the only thing that has always been yours, your own mind, your own choices, and your own inner peace. Chapter 7. Finding Strength in Silence and Stillness. The world has become louder than ever before. From the moment we wake up, our attention is pulled in 100 different directions. Phones buzz with notifications. News headlines compete for our emotions. Social media floods our minds with opinions, comparisons, and endless updates. Conversations overlap with advertisements, emails, deadlines, and responsibilities. Even in moments that were once quiet, we reach for another screen, another podcast, or another distraction. We have become so accustomed to constant noise that silence feels unfamiliar. For many people, being alone with their thoughts is uncomfortable. The moment quiet appears, they instinctively fill it with music, scrolling, television, or conversation. Yet the irony is that the very thing we avoid is often the very thing we need most. Silence is not empty. It is where clarity begins. Some of history's greatest thinkers, leaders, artists, and innovators shared one powerful habit. They regularly stepped away from the noise. They understood that wisdom rarely appears in the middle of chaos. It emerges in moments of stillness when the mind finally has room to breathe. Think of a muddy lake after a heavy storm. As long as the water is constantly disturbed, you cannot see beneath the surface. But if the lake is left undisturbed, the mud slowly settles and the water becomes clear again. Your mind works in exactly the same way. When you constantly feed it more information, more entertainment, more worries, and more stimulation, your thoughts become cloudy. Decisions feel confusing. Small problems seem overwhelming. Your emotions become harder to understand because everything is moving too quickly. Stillness allows the mental dust to settle. It doesn't magically remove every challenge, but it changes how you see them. Many people mistakenly believe that productivity means doing more. More meetings, more tasks, more messages, more commitments, more activity. But true effectiveness is not about constant motion. It is about making thoughtful decisions. And thoughtful decisions require moments of reflection. Imagine trying to write an important letter while someone is shouting in your ear. Your concentration would disappear. Yet many people attempt to make life's biggest decisions while surrounded by endless mental noise. Should I change careers? Should I forgive this person? What kind of life do I really want? What truly matters to me? These questions cannot be answered by rushing. They require space. Silence gives you that space. One reason people fear stillness is that it forces them to face themselves. When distractions disappear, hidden emotions often surface. Unfinished grief, unspoken fears, disappointment, loneliness, regret. Instead of processing these feelings, many people bury them beneath endless activity. Being busy becomes a form of escape. But emotions do not disappear simply because we ignore them. They wait patiently beneath the surface until they eventually demand attention. Stillness gives those emotions a safe place to be recognized. It allows you to ask honest questions. What am I really feeling? What has been weighing on me? What am I trying to avoid? These questions are not signs of weakness. They are signs of courage. Self-awareness always begins with honesty. This is why spending time alone is so valuable. Notice the difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is feeling disconnected from others. Solitude is intentionally connecting with yourself. They may appear similar from the outside, but emotionally they are worlds apart. Healthy solitude restores your energy. It helps you reconnect with your values instead of constantly living according to everyone else's expectations. When you spend every waking hour responding to other people's needs, opinions and demands, you slowly lose touch with your own inner voice. Silence helps you hear it again. Another remarkable gift of stillness is improved creativity. Many of our best ideas arrive when we stop forcing them. Think about the moments when inspiration unexpectedly appears, while taking a walk, standing in the shower, watching the sunrise, sitting quietly with a cup of tea. These moments have one thing in common. The mind has relaxed. It is no longer overloaded by urgency. Scientists often refer to this as allowing the brain's default mode to become active, a state in which ideas naturally connect in new and creative ways. While you are resting, your mind continues solving problems in the background. This is why stepping away from a difficult challenge often helps you solve it more effectively than staring at it for hours. Silence is not wasted time. It is productive recovery. Stillness also strengthens emotional resilience. Imagine someone who experiences criticism at work. If their life is filled with constant noise and distraction, that criticism may continue echoing in their mind for days. Without space to process it calmly, insecurity grows stronger. Now imagine someone who has developed a habit of daily reflection. They sit quietly for a few minutes that evening. They ask themselves, was the criticism fair? What can I learn? What should I ignore? Within a short time, the emotional intensity begins to fade. Wisdom replaces defensiveness because they created room for perspective. Stillness does not eliminate emotion. It prevents emotion from controlling you. One of the simplest ways to introduce more stillness into your life is by protecting small moments throughout the day. Wake up 10 minutes earlier than usual. Sit without checking your phone. Watch the morning light enter the room. Take slow, intentional breaths. Notice the sounds around you. Allow your mind to settle before the world begins demanding your attention. Another practice is mindful walking. Leave your headphones behind. Walk through a park, along a quiet street, or even around your neighborhood. Pay attention to your breathing. Feel your footsteps. Observe the trees, the sky, and the changing seasons. These simple experiences remind you that life is happening now, not only inside your thoughts. Journaling is another powerful form of stillness. When thoughts remain trapped inside your head, they often become tangled and confusing. Writing slows your thinking. It transforms vague emotions into clear words. Problems that once felt overwhelming suddenly become manageable because you can finally see them with greater perspective. Even 5 minutes of honest writing each day can reduce mental clutter and reveal patterns you never noticed before. Stillness also teaches patience. In today's world, we expect immediate answers, instant success, and constant progress. But nature follows a different rhythm. Trees do not grow overnight. Flowers do not bloom because we demand they bloom. The strongest mountains were shaped over thousands of years. Lasting personal growth follows the same principle. A calm mind is not built in a single afternoon. It develops slowly through consistent practice. Each quiet moment strengthens your ability to remain centered during life's storms. Each pause teaches your mind that not every problem requires immediate reaction. Each moment of reflection deepens your understanding of yourself. Eventually, something remarkable begins to happen. You stop seeking peace only in perfect circumstances. Instead, you begin carrying peace within you. The world around you may remain noisy. Deadlines will still exist. Unexpected problems will still appear. People will still disappoint you. Life will continue changing. But your inner world becomes different. Instead of being constantly pulled in every direction, you develop an anchor. That anchor is stillness, and from stillness comes clarity. From clarity comes wiser decisions. From wiser decisions comes confidence, and from confidence comes the quiet strength that no external circumstance can easily take away. Silence is not the absence of life. It is the place where life becomes easier to understand. Stillness is not escaping the world. It is preparing yourself to return to it with greater wisdom, greater compassion, and a calmer, stronger mind. The strongest people are rarely those who make the most noise. More often, they are those who have learned the extraordinary power of sitting quietly, listening deeply, and allowing peace to become the foundation of every action they take. Chapter 8. Respond, don't react. A single moment can change the direction of a conversation, a relationship, or even an entire life. Sometimes that moment lasts only a few seconds. A careless reply during an argument, an angry message sent without thinking, a harsh judgment made in frustration. These reactions often happen so quickly that we barely notice them until the damage has already been done. Later, when emotions settle, we often ask ourselves, "Why did I say that?" Or, "Why didn't I think before I reacted?" The answer is simple. In that moment, emotion was driving the mind instead of wisdom. One of the greatest advantages of a calm mind is the ability to respond rather than react. Although these two words may seem similar, they create completely different outcomes. A reaction is immediate, it is automatic, it is driven by emotion rather than reflection. It happens before we have fully understood the situation. A response is intentional, it is thoughtful, it is guided by values instead of temporary feelings. It creates space between what happens to us and what we choose to do next. That small space may only last a few seconds, but it contains extraordinary power. Imagine someone criticizes your work during a meeting. Your first instinct may be to defend yourself immediately. Your heart beats faster. Your face becomes warm. Your mind prepares arguments before the other person has even finished speaking. If you react, you may interrupt, become defensive, or say something you later regret. But if you pause, take a slow breath, and listen carefully, something remarkable happens. Your emotions begin to settle. You hear the criticism more clearly. You recognize that part of it may actually be helpful. Even if some of it is unfair, you can respond with professionalism instead of anger. The situation has not changed. Only your response has. This is the hidden strength of emotional self-control. Many people believe that reacting quickly is a sign of confidence or strength. In reality, reacting impulsively often reveals the opposite. It shows that external events have gained control over your inner world. Responding calmly does not mean becoming passive or allowing people to mistreat you. It means choosing your actions instead of allowing your emotions to choose them for you. Think about a firefighter entering a burning building. Imagine if they panicked the moment they saw the flames. They would become another victim instead of helping others. Their effectiveness comes from remaining calm while everyone else is overwhelmed. Life asks us to develop the same skill. Conflict is one of the greatest tests of this ability. Every relationship experiences disagreements. Friends misunderstand each other. Couples argue. Families face tension. Colleagues hold different opinions. Conflict itself is not the problem. The problem is how we handle it. When people react emotionally, conversations quickly become battles. Listening disappears. Everyone wants to prove they are right. Voices become louder. Assumptions replace understanding. Small disagreements grow into deep resentment. In contrast, calm responses create entirely different conversations. Instead of interrupting, you listen. Instead of attacking, you ask questions. Instead of assuming intentions, you seek clarification. Simple phrases can transform the direction of a difficult discussion. Help me understand what you mean. Let's take a moment before we continue. I see your point, even though I view it differently. Let's focus on solving the problem rather than blaming each other. These responses do not weaken your position, they strengthen it. People naturally respect those who remain composed under pressure because calmness communicates confidence. Another important truth is that emotions are contagious. Walk into a room where one person is shouting and tension spreads almost instantly. Now imagine entering a room where someone speaks calmly, listens carefully, and refuses to become defensive. Their emotional stability begins influencing everyone around them. Your emotional state affects more people than you realize. Parents teach emotional habits to their children. Leaders influence entire teams. Teachers shape classrooms. Friends influence one another. By learning to respond instead of react, you quietly encourage others to do the same. This principle becomes especially important during unexpected setbacks. Suppose your carefully planned project suddenly fails. Your first reaction may be frustration or disappointment. You could spend hours blaming circumstances or criticizing yourself, or you could pause and ask 3 simple questions. What actually happened? What can I learn? What is my next best step? These questions shift your mind from emotion to action. They replace helplessness with responsibility. The same principle applies when facing criticism. Not all criticism is fair. Some people judge without understanding. Others speak carelessly. But reacting defensively to every opinion gives strangers too much control over your emotional well-being. A calm response begins by asking whether the criticism contains any truth. If it does, learn from it. If it doesn't, let it go. Not every opinion deserves your attention. Not every disagreement deserves your energy. Choosing which battles to fight is one of the greatest signs of emotional maturity. There is also great wisdom in recognizing the power of a pause. A deep breath may seem insignificant, but it changes your body's response to stress. Instead of allowing adrenaline to dominate your thinking, you create an opportunity for your rational mind to return. Sometimes the wisest response is no response at all. Not every comment requires an answer. Not every insult deserves a defense. Not every misunderstanding needs immediate resolution. Silence, when chosen intentionally, is often more powerful than argument. This does not mean avoiding difficult conversations. Some conversations must happen. Boundaries must sometimes be set. Mistakes must be addressed. Truth must occasionally be spoken firmly. But firmness and anger are not the same thing. You can be calm without being weak. You can be kind without surrendering your values. You can disagree without becoming disrespectful. These qualities define emotional strength. Developing this habit requires practice. At first, you may still react impulsively. You may speak too quickly or allow frustration to take over. When that happens, do not criticize yourself. Instead, reflect. Ask yourself, what triggered me? How could I respond differently next time? Every difficult situation becomes an opportunity to strengthen your emotional discipline. Gradually, something begins to change. The pause between emotion and action becomes longer. Your words become more thoughtful. Your relationships become healthier because people feel heard rather than attacked. Your confidence grows because you trust your ability to remain steady under pressure. Most importantly, you stop allowing temporary emotions to create permanent consequences. Life will always present unexpected challenges. People will disappoint you. Plans will change. Criticism will come. Conflict cannot be completely avoided. But every day you have a choice. You can allow circumstances to dictate your behavior, or you can become the person who remains calm enough to choose a wiser response. That choice is available in every conversation, every setback, every disagreement, and every unexpected moment. And over time, those small choices shape not only your relationships, but also your character. A calm response may not always be the easiest path, but it is almost always the strongest one. When you learn to respond instead of react, you stop giving your emotions control over your life and begin leading your life with clarity, purpose, and quiet strength. Chapter 9. Building daily habits that protect your peace. A calm mind is not created in a single life-changing moment. It is built in hundreds of ordinary moments that most people overlook. Many people believe peace will arrive when life finally becomes easier. They tell themselves, once I get the promotion, I'll relax. Once I earn more money, I'll stop worrying. Once everything settles down, I'll finally feel at peace. But life rarely works that way. One challenge is followed by another. One responsibility leads to the next. If your peace depends entirely on perfect circumstances, you will spend your life waiting for a day that never comes. The truth is this: peace is not something you find. It is something you build, and like any strong building, it begins with a solid foundation. That foundation is your daily habits. Every habit, no matter how small, shapes your emotional state. The way you begin your morning, the information you consume, the people you spend time with, how you move your body, and how you end your day all influence the quality of your mind. Most people underestimate the power of small actions because they expect dramatic results overnight. Yet a single drop of water seems insignificant until it falls continuously on the same stone. Eventually, even the hardest rock begins to change. Your habits work in exactly the same way. Imagine two people waking up at the same time every morning. The first reaches for their phone before even getting out of bed. Within minutes, they are scrolling through social media, reading alarming headlines, comparing their lives with strangers, and answering stressful emails. Before the day has truly begun, their mind is already overloaded. Their attention is scattered, their emotions are reactive, and their peace has quietly disappeared. The second person begins differently. They leave their phone untouched for the first 20 minutes. They take a few slow breaths, stretch their body, drink a glass of water, and spend a few moments reading something uplifting or simply sitting in silence. They think about the day ahead with intention instead of urgency. Both people experience the same 24 hours, but one begins in chaos, the other begins with clarity. The difference is not luck. It is habit. Morning routines matter because they set the emotional tone for everything that follows. When your first moments are calm and intentional, your mind becomes better prepared to handle unexpected challenges later in the day. Another habit that protects your peace is learning to manage your attention. We often believe our greatest resource is time. In reality, it is attention. Where your attention goes, your emotional energy follows. If you spend hours each day consuming negative news, comparing yourself with others, or arguing online, your mind gradually becomes filled with tension and frustration. This does not mean ignoring reality. It means choosing carefully what deserves space in your mind. Not every headline requires your emotional investment. Not every opinion deserves your response. Not every notification deserves your immediate attention. Your mind is like a garden. If you allow weeds to grow unchecked, they eventually crowd out the flowers. Likewise, if you constantly feed your mind fear, anger, and comparison, peace struggles to survive. Protecting your attention is an act of self-respect. Sleep is another habit that is often ignored. Many people sacrifice rest in the name of productivity, believing they can simply push through exhaustion. But a tired mind is far more vulnerable to stress, impatience, and poor judgment. Think about how differently you respond to problems after a restful night compared to when you are exhausted. The same situation that feels overwhelming late at night often seems manageable the following morning. Sleep does more than restore the body. It restores emotional balance. Giving yourself enough rest is not laziness, it is preparation for living well. Movement is equally important. You do not need to become an athlete to experience the emotional benefits of physical activity. A simple walk, gentle stretching, cycling or light exercise can transform the way you feel. Movement releases tension stored in the body. It quiets racing thoughts. It reminds you that your body was designed for more than sitting in front of screens all day. Sometimes the fastest way to calm your mind is to move your body. Equally valuable is the habit of reflection. Most people spend their days reacting to events without ever stopping to ask what those experiences are teaching them. Take just a few minutes each evening to reflect. Ask yourself, what went well today? What challenged me? How did I respond? What can I do differently tomorrow? These simple questions gradually build self-awareness. Without reflection, days blur into weeks, and weeks into years. With reflection, every experience becomes an opportunity for growth. Gratitude is another quiet habit that strengthens emotional resilience. The human brain naturally notices problems more quickly than blessings. This survival instinct once kept our ancestors alive, but today it often causes us to overlook the good that already exists. Each day, intentionally notice a few things you appreciate. Perhaps it is your health, a supportive friend, a peaceful morning, a lesson learned, a beautiful sunset. Gratitude does not erase life's difficulties. It simply prevents difficulties from becoming the only thing you see. Another habit worth developing is creating healthy boundaries. Many people lose their peace because they say yes too often. They accept responsibilities they cannot manage. They allow constant interruptions. They try to please everyone while quietly exhausting themselves. Remember this: every time you say yes to something unnecessary, you may be saying no to your own well-being. Protecting your peace sometimes requires disappointing others. That is not selfish. It is wise. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Perhaps the most important habit of all is consistency. People often search for extraordinary methods while ignoring ordinary disciplines. A calm life is not built through occasional bursts of motivation. It is built through daily choices repeated over months and years. Some days your routine will feel easy. Other days you will skip your walk, forget to reflect, or become distracted by stress. Do not let one imperfect day become an excuse to abandon the habits that serve you. Progress is never about perfection. It is about returning. Returning to your breathing. Returning to gratitude. Returning to healthy routines. Returning to calm. Every new day gives you another opportunity to begin again. Over time, these small habits create something extraordinary. You become less reactive because your mind is no longer overwhelmed. You make wiser decisions because your thinking is clearer. You recover more quickly from setbacks because your emotional foundation is stronger. Your relationships improve because you carry less stress into them. Most importantly, your peace stops depending on external circumstances. Instead, it becomes part of who you are. Remember, no single habit will transform your life overnight. But hundreds of small choices, made consistently, will quietly reshape your character. The calmest people are rarely those with the easiest lives. They are the ones who have built daily habits that protect their minds from unnecessary chaos and continually guide them back to what matters most. Your peace is too valuable to leave to chance. Build it every day, protect it with intention, and let your habits become the quiet architects of the life you truly want to live. Chapter 10. Turning setbacks into inner strength. No one reaches a meaningful destination without facing disappointment. Failure is not reserved for the inexperienced. Rejection is not limited to the untalented. Setbacks visit every life, regardless of intelligence, success, or determination. The difference between those who eventually succeed and those who remain stuck is rarely the absence of failure. It is the way they respond when failure arrives. Many people believe a setback is the end of the story. In reality, it is often the beginning of a better one. Imagine an athlete who spends years preparing for a championship. They wake before sunrise to train, sacrifice weekends, and push through pain. Yet on the day that matters most, they lose. In the hours that follow, they have two choices. They can believe the defeat defines them, or they can calmly examine what happened, strengthen their weaknesses, and return with greater wisdom. The loss remains the same, but the meaning they assign to it changes everything. Life constantly presents us with similar choices. A failed business, a rejected job application, the end of a relationship, an unexpected illness, a financial setback. These experiences are painful, but they do not determine your future. Your response does. One of the greatest mistakes people make after experiencing failure is confusing an event with their identity. They don't think, "I failed." They think, "I am a failure." That small change in language carries enormous consequences. A setback is something that happens. It is not who you are. The moment you separate your identity from your circumstances, you regain the power to move forward. Calm thinking makes this possible. When emotions take over, disappointment feels permanent. The mind exaggerates the problem and begins telling stories that have little connection to reality. I'll never recover. Everyone else is succeeding except me. I've missed my chance. These thoughts feel convincing because pain narrows our perspective. We become so focused on today's disappointment that we forget how many successful people have stood exactly where we are now. History is filled with individuals whose greatest achievements were built upon earlier failures. Inventors whose first ideas failed. Authors whose manuscripts were rejected. Entrepreneurs whose first businesses collapsed. Athletes who lost important competitions before becoming champions. What separated them from others was not extraordinary luck, it was extraordinary resilience. Resilience is not the ability to avoid hardship. It is the ability to keep moving despite it. This begins by changing the questions you ask yourself. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this experience teaching me?" Instead of saying, "Everything is ruined," ask, "What can I do next?" These questions shift your attention away from helplessness and toward growth. Every setback contains information. Perhaps you need new skills. Perhaps your plan needs adjustment. Perhaps your expectations were unrealistic. Perhaps the experience is teaching patience, humility, or perseverance. Pain becomes valuable when it becomes a teacher rather than a prison. Another important lesson is to avoid making permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. After a disappointment, the temptation to quit is often strongest. You may feel like giving up on your dream, ending a meaningful relationship, or abandoning months of progress because one difficult moment makes the future seem hopeless. But emotions change. Perspective returns. What feels impossible today may look completely different next week. This is why calm people rarely make life-changing decisions while overwhelmed by anger, fear, or sadness. They allow emotions to settle before choosing their next step. Sometimes the wisest action is simply to pause, not to surrender, not to escape, but to recover. Just as muscles need rest after intense exercise, the mind also needs time to heal after emotional strain. Rest is not weakness, it is preparation. Another powerful habit is accepting responsibility without carrying unnecessary blame. Responsibility asks, "What can I improve?" Blame asks, "What's wrong with me?" One leads to growth, the other leads to shame. Healthy responsibility empowers you because it reminds you that your future is still influenced by your choices. Shame convinces you that change is impossible. Choose responsibility. Leave shame behind. It is also important to remember that progress is rarely visible in the middle of the journey. Imagine planting a seed. For weeks, nothing appears above the ground. Yet beneath the surface, roots are quietly growing stronger. If you judged the seed only by what you could immediately see, you might wrongly assume nothing was happening. Personal growth often follows the same pattern. Your setbacks may be developing patience you never had. Your failures may be building resilience you will one day depend upon. Your struggles may be preparing you for opportunities that require greater wisdom than you possess today. Trust the unseen process. Every challenge you survive changes you in ways you may not recognize until much later. Most importantly, remember that courage is not the absence of fear or disappointment. Courage is choosing to continue despite them. You do not need to feel completely confident before taking your next step. You only need to believe that one setback cannot erase your potential. One rejection cannot define your worth. One mistake cannot cancel your future. A calm mind understands that life is not measured by how many times you fall, but by how many times you rise with greater wisdom than before. Every setback carries within it a hidden invitation to become more patient, more resilient, more compassionate, and more courageous than you were yesterday. If you accept that invitation, failure loses its power to defeat you. Instead, it becomes one of your greatest teachers. Remember, your strongest moments will not come from the days when everything went according to plan. They will come from the seasons when life tested you, challenged you, and forced you to grow. Those are the moments that shape character. Those are the moments that reveal quiet strength. And those are the moments that prove a calm mind is not only a source of peace, it is the foundation of resilience, hope, and lasting success. Chapter 11. Becoming the Calm Presence. Others' Trust. Every room has a certain emotional atmosphere. Sometimes you can feel it the moment you walk in. A workplace filled with tension. A family gathering weighed down by unresolved conflict. A meeting where everyone is anxious because no one knows what will happen next. But occasionally you meet someone whose presence changes the entire atmosphere without them saying very much. They are not the loudest person in the room. They do not demand attention or try to impress anyone. Yet people naturally feel more relaxed, more confident, and more hopeful when they are around them. What makes these people different? It is not their title, wealth, or popularity. It is the quiet strength of a calm mind. The world often celebrates charisma, confidence, and influence. While these qualities certainly have value, there is another form of leadership that is far more powerful and far more lasting. It is the ability to remain steady when others are overwhelmed. People trust calmness because calmness creates safety. Think about the people you admire most. Chances are they are not individuals who panic during every challenge or lose control whenever life becomes difficult. Instead, they are people who remain thoughtful under pressure. They listen before speaking. They make decisions carefully. They do not allow fear or frustration to control their behavior. Their calmness becomes a source of stability for everyone around them. Trust is built through consistency. Imagine working with two different managers. The first manager changes with every emotion. One day they are encouraging and optimistic. The next day they are impatient, critical, and unpredictable. Employees never know what version of their leader they will encounter. As a result, they become anxious, cautious, and reluctant to share ideas. Now imagine another manager. This leader faces the same deadlines, the same pressures, and the same unexpected problems. Yet they remain composed. They acknowledge difficulties without spreading panic. They offer guidance instead of blame. They focus on solutions rather than complaints. Which leader would you trust? The answer is obvious. People are naturally drawn to emotional stability because it provides a sense of security. This principle extends beyond leadership in the workplace. It shapes friendships, it strengthens marriages, it influences parenting, it transforms communities. In every relationship, people are looking for someone who helps them feel emotionally safe. Being emotionally safe does not mean always agreeing with others or avoiding difficult conversations. It means knowing that disagreements will be handled with respect rather than hostility. It means believing that mistakes will be met with understanding before judgment. It means trusting that honesty will be valued over anger. These qualities are not created by perfect personalities. They are created by emotional maturity. One of the greatest gifts you can offer another person is your full attention. In today's distracted world, genuine listening has become surprisingly rare. Many conversations are simply opportunities for people to wait for their turn to speak. But calm people listen differently. They listen to understand, not merely to reply. They ask thoughtful questions. They notice emotions hidden beneath words. They allow silence instead of rushing to fill every pause. This kind of listening communicates something deeply meaningful. You matter. People may forget exactly what you said, but they rarely forget how you made them feel. When someone feels truly heard, trust begins to grow. Another characteristic of calm people is humility. They do not believe they have all the answers. They are comfortable saying, "I don't know. I was wrong. Help me understand your perspective." These simple statements require tremendous inner strength. Insecure people often pretend to know everything because they fear appearing weak. Emotionally secure people understand that admitting limitations actually builds credibility. Humility opens doors that pride keeps closed. Calmness also influences the way we respond during other people's emotional moments. Imagine a close friend calls you after receiving devastating news. They are frightened, overwhelmed, and struggling to think clearly. If you immediately panic alongside them, their fear doubles. But if you remain calm, listen patiently, and help them think through the situation one step at a time, your presence becomes a source of hope. Notice that you did not solve their problem immediately. You simply offered emotional stability. Sometimes that is exactly what people need most. Parents demonstrate this principle every day. When a young child falls and begins crying, they instinctively look toward their parent before deciding how serious the situation is. If the parent remains calm, the child often settles more quickly. If the parent panics, the child's fear usually intensifies. Children learn emotional habits by watching the adults around them. The same is true in every relationship. People often mirror the emotional energy they receive. That is why your own emotional discipline matters far beyond your personal well-being. It quietly influences everyone whose life you touch. Of course, becoming a calm presence does not mean becoming emotionally distant. Some people mistake calmness for emotional detachment. They believe staying composed requires hiding their feelings or avoiding vulnerability. But true calmness is deeply human. It allows you to express sadness without becoming hopeless, to experience anger without becoming destructive, to feel fear without becoming paralyzed, to celebrate success without becoming arrogant. It is emotional balance, not emotional absence. There will be days when maintaining this balance feels difficult. Stress will test your patience. Disappointment will challenge your perspective. People may misunderstand your intentions or respond unfairly. In those moments, remember that every challenge is another opportunity to strengthen your character. Before reacting, pause, take a breath. Ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be in this moment? That question shifts your focus from temporary emotion to lasting identity. Over time, your reputation will no longer depend on what you achieve alone. It will also be shaped by how people feel when they are around you. Do they feel judged or accepted, pressured or encouraged, anxious or peaceful, safe or uncertain? These invisible impressions often leave a deeper legacy than any professional accomplishment. The most respected people are rarely those who dominate every conversation or constantly seek recognition. They are the ones whose calmness inspires confidence, whose wisdom brings perspective, and whose steady character remains unchanged by success or adversity. Becoming that kind of person does not happen overnight. It is built through countless small choices. Choosing patience instead of frustration. Choosing understanding instead of assumption. Choosing kindness instead of pride. Choosing thoughtful responses instead of emotional reactions. Each choice strengthens the person you are becoming. Eventually, your calmness becomes more than a habit. It becomes your reputation. People begin seeking your advice because they trust your judgment. They value your presence because it brings peace rather than pressure. They respect your leadership because it is grounded in character rather than control. And perhaps the greatest reward of all is this: you no longer need to convince people of your strength. They can feel it. Not because of how loudly you speak or how much attention you attract, but because your calm mind quietly communicates something that words alone never could. That true strength is found in self-mastery, and the people who master themselves naturally become a source of confidence, comfort, and hope for everyone around them. Chapter 12. A life guided by calm, purpose, and lasting peace. After all the noise, all the pressure, all the overthinking, and all the emotional storms, one truth remains. A calm mind changes everything. Not because it removes all difficulty from life, but because it changes the way you move through difficulty. It gives you the space to think clearly when others panic. It gives you the strength to remain steady when life becomes uncertain. It gives you the wisdom to choose purpose over impulse, peace over chaos, and growth over fear. This is the final lesson of this journey, but in many ways it is also the beginning of a new one. A life guided by calm is not a life free of problems. Challenges will still come. Loss will still happen. People will still disappoint you. Plans will still change. There will be days when your emotions rise faster than your wisdom, and moments when the world feels heavier than you expected. Calmness does not promise a perfect life. It promises a stronger you. That strength begins with perspective. When you look back at the chapters of your life, you begin to see how much suffering was created not only by events, but by the way those events were interpreted. A mistake felt like defeat. A delay felt like rejection. A setback felt like the end. Yet in time, many of those moments proved to be turning points. What once felt unbearable became a lesson. What once felt painful became preparation. What once felt like failure became a foundation. A calm mind helps you see life more truthfully. It reminds you that not every storm is permanent. Not every problem is as large as it first appears. Not every emotion deserves a decision. With calm, you stop treating temporary discomfort like a final verdict on your future. You begin to understand that life is not asking you to be flawless. It is asking you to be steady, honest, and willing to keep moving forward. That is where purpose enters the picture. Purpose is what gives calm its direction. Without purpose, peace can become passive. With purpose, peace becomes powerful. You are no longer calm simply to avoid discomfort. You are calm so you can think well, love well, lead well, and live well. You are calm so you can respond to life with intention instead of being dragged around by every emotion that passes through your mind. When you live this way, your habits change. You begin protecting your attention more carefully. You become more thoughtful with your words. You stop chasing every distraction. You choose relationships that nourish rather than drain. You recognize the value of silence, reflection, and rest. You stop measuring your worth by how busy you are and begin measuring your growth by how wisely you live. This is the hidden beauty of emotional mastery. It creates a quieter life on the outside and a deeper life on the inside. People often imagine that success feels loud. They picture constant activity, constant ambition, and constant pressure. But some of the most meaningful success in life is deeply calm. It looks like making thoughtful decisions under pressure. It looks like handling criticism without collapse. It looks like loving others without trying to control them. It looks like waking up with clarity instead of dread. It looks like being able to sit alone with your thoughts and feel at peace rather than afraid. A calm life is not boring. It is focused. It is not empty. It is intentional. It is not weak. It is disciplined. And it is available to anyone willing to practice it. The journey to lasting peace is not built in a single dramatic moment. It is built through repetition. Every time you pause before reacting, you strengthen self-control. Every time you let go of what you cannot change, you strengthen acceptance. Every time you choose silence over noise, you strengthen clarity. Every time you protect your peace, you strengthen your future. Over time, these choices shape your character. They teach you that you do not need to control everything to be safe. You do not need to win every argument to be respected. You do not need to have every answer to move forward. You do not need to live in fear of uncertainty if you have learned how to meet it with a calm and steady mind. That is a life of lasting peace. Not the kind of peace that depends on perfect conditions, but the kind that remains even when conditions are imperfect. Not the kind that comes and goes with mood or circumstance, but the kind that grows stronger because you have learned how to carry it within you. If you have followed this journey from the beginning, you have already taken the first step. Awareness has replaced blindness. Calm has replaced panic. Thoughtfulness has replaced reaction. And now, purpose can guide the rest of your path. Let this be your reminder. Your life does not have to be ruled by stress, fear, or emotional chaos. You are capable of greater steadiness than you think. You are capable of clearer thinking than you have given yourself credit for. You are capable of becoming a person whose presence brings peace, whose choices reflect wisdom, and whose life quietly inspires others. The advantage of a calm mind is not just that it helps you survive. It helps you live fully. It helps you build a future rooted in self-respect, emotional strength, and inner peace. And once you begin walking that path, you discover something remarkable. Calm is not simply something you practice. It becomes the foundation of the life you were always meant to live. As we reach the end of this journey, remember that the real purpose of this audiobook was never to fill your mind with more information. It was to help you transform the way you think, feel, and respond to life. A calm mind is not something you achieve once and keep forever. It is a daily practice, a choice you make every time you pause before reacting. Let go of what you cannot control, replace fear with clarity, and choose wisdom over impulse. Some days this will come naturally. Other days it will require patience and determination. Both are part of the journey. From this moment forward, don't try to change everything at once. Instead, choose one lesson from this book and begin applying it today. Perhaps you'll spend a few quiet minutes each morning in reflection. Perhaps you'll pause before responding during conflict. Perhaps you'll stop giving your energy to worries that have never become reality. Small, consistent actions create extraordinary change. Remember, your greatest strength is not measured by how much pressure you can endure or how loudly you can fight life's battles. It is measured by your ability to remain steady when the world around you is uncertain. As you continue your journey, may your mind become clearer, your heart more peaceful, and your actions more intentional. May you face challenges with courage, relationships with compassion, and every new day with quiet confidence. Thank you for spending this time with us. If this audiobook has inspired you, carry its lessons into your everyday life and share them through your example. Because when one person learns to live with a calm mind, everyone around them benefits. Your greatest advantage has always been within you. Now it's time to live it.